Today we're going to be taking the next step towards our airbrushing degree, so don't go away. Hey friends, and welcome to Fat Guy Productions. I am Paul, coming to you as always from beautiful Las Vegas, Nevada. And today we're going to be tackling Airbrush 102 Air Power. Let's get started. In this video we're going to be looking at supplying air to your airbrush with a compressor. As a side note, we'll also briefly touch on using compressed air in a can. It seems that these days everybody is making an air compressor, and so it's my intention to lay this bag of snakes out straight for you and give you some advice so that you can make a happy purchase. When considering buying a compressor, there are a lot of variables. I'm going to just give you a couple things to think about. How loud is the compressor? Is it going to be bothersome to you? How much pressure do you need the compressor to be able to generate? In other words, how are you going to be using it? Do you need or want a storage tank? I'm just going to run through the basics and try and point you in the right direction. If, like most people, you are only supplying air to one brush at a time, then you can simply look at the specs of that brush to determine how much airflow the compressor will need to generate. You know, I have a Badger Patriot. And the Patriot, for example, needs at least 10 psi, but can work up to 30 psi. So that would mean I need a compressor that can supply at least 30 psi. In addition to how much air the compressor can generate, you should also pay attention to the duty cycle. The duty cycle is how long the motor of the compressor should run in any given hour. So if the duty cycle is 50%, that means the motor should not run more than 30 minutes in any given hour. For me, and many others like me, the noise of the compressor isn't a big deal. But for some, it could be a total deal breaker. So it's important that if that is something that is of concern to you, that you pay attention to that spec on your compressor. Some compressors come with a storage tank and some don't. I have one that does not have a storage tank and it works just fine for me. However, there are some big advantages to having a storage tank. For example, a compressor with a storage tank often seems to last longer than one without. A storage tank can also help smooth out the flow of air that comes out of your airbrush and reduce any pulsations. Yes, compressors with storage tanks do cost more, but as I've said before, there is value in quality. Many compressors already come with a moisture filter, but some don't. If the compressor you're looking at does not come with one, you're really going to need to add one, and you're going to have to consider the cost of that into the cost of the compressor. In addition to the moisture filter, you're going to want to make sure that your compressor has a regulator. This allows you to dial in how much air is being output from the compressor. Some paints like low pressure, others need higher pressure, and you're going to want to have control over that. For me, I've had really good luck with affordable compressors by Master. You can find them online, and of course, as always, I'll put a link for them down below. These are affordable compressors. Mine can handle pressures as high as 57 psi, and while they're not the best built compressor in the world, they get the job done and are very, very affordable. Now, certainly, as I've said before, there is value in quality, but at the same time, I think a lot of the cost difference between a Master compressor and some of the other brands is the name on the label. If you do decide that you want to go with a higher quality compressor, almost all of the airbrush manufacturers make their own compressors, such as Paasch and Badger and Iwata. The Iwata Studio Series Power Jet is a great compressor and can generate PSIs up to 70 pounds, but I've never had a need for those kind of pressures, and at almost $500, this is a heck of a spendy little investment. It's really not something I feel I needed. By comparison, a full-featured master brand compressor that includes a, albeit crappy little airbrush, runs about $120. So there's quite a savings to be had there. Many of you watching are thinking about your large compressor out in your garage and wondering, can I use it to airbrush with? Well, the simple answer is yes, as long as you can dial the pressure down to the range that you need to supply your airbrush. There are a lot of downsides to using a compressor like this. First and foremost, they're probably in a rotten location where you don't really want to spend your time doing your airbrushing. Second of all, they are really loud. These are loud and obnoxious and not something you want to sit by all day long. Still, if you have one and you're bound and determined to use it, it will work. While I absolutely recommend a small airbrush compressor for airbrushing, there is another way to go, and that is compressed canned air. A lot of people turn to compressed canned air to use, as it seems on the face of it to be a very cost-effective way to start airbrushing. It isn't. A can of air by Paasch runs about $12 on Amazon, but it runs out so fast that you'll burn through these things like nobody's business. In no time flat, you will have spent more than you would have had you just bought a compressor up front. These cans of air have freezing problems, they have fluctuating pressure as the can drains down, they are expensive compared to an air compressor, and they're just really not a good option. So, in my estimation, skip these things. So what should you buy? Let's face it, that's why you watch these kind of videos, to help you make the decision on what should I buy. Well, I would stay away from using my big home compressor. I have one. I don't use it for this. I would stay away from canned air. I would absolutely go with a dedicated airbrush compressor. First, I'd look to an oilless compressor, and I'd make sure that it can generate at least 50 psi. If it can do that, one of the next things I would consider is, does it have a storage tank? Mine doesn't have one, and I wish I did have that. That is a feature I really would like. Having said that, it isn't a necessity. If you're afraid of these low-level name brands like Master, that's fine. Feel free to spend some money and buy yourself a Badger or an Iwata. Those are going to be great compressors, and they're going to last you a long time. To help you out further, I'm going to put some links down below of some airbrush compressors I do recommend. So I hope you've learned something here today and that you liked this video. If you did, please click subscribe, give it a thumbs up, and click the bell so that you can be notified anytime I release a new video. If you have any questions or comments, leave them down below. I really do read everything you guys write. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. This is Paul from Fat Guy Productions, wishing you an amazing day and hoping that the winds of fortune blow your direction. Until next time, be good.